So in accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being recorded. Just so everybody knows, all votes will be having taken by a roll call. So really, the main thing I wanted to talk about today was the town meeting warrant. This member from the select board, Mike Goddard's here, and just wants to know if we have opinions on some of the articles, including the ARMUD article, which is the zoning Taft Orchard as basically rezoning the Taft Orchard property, as well as any other articles we feel that might the EDC might want to weigh in on. And I don't know, Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that one of the reasons, from my point, and I guess the select board's point, we're looking to rezone that parcel is it's a town asset, and we're looking to utilize it to potentially address possible commercial and housing. I'd like to see some commercial on there, so that's where we're going with a mixed use zone. The age restricted piece will help us address some of our affordable housing, but it should drive some diverse housing stock in town. And where commercials involved, I think it would be worthwhile for this committee to weigh in on, whether you're in favor of something like this or not. Because we speak to it on the floor, the more boards or committees that we, that are on board, I think that will help, drive the discussion on the floor tomorrow night.
Absolutely. I mean, for myself, I can speak to the idea that, I mean, something we have been looking at for a while is rezoning this piece of property. We do feel that, that the Taft Orchard, and just to be clear, the Taft Orchard property is the one right on 16. Like right at the intersection of 16 and North Ave, basically, correct? That's what we're thinking.
Yeah, it's the upper half, top of the hill, where the senior
Yep.
community center was going. I mean, that's
Right,
really
right
the
across
last
the street
last piece of the parcel, Tom, that does not have a use identified yet.
Right. Because the rest, down close to the drive-in, that's the unused storage facility. And then there's a conservation restriction in between, but then there's this big piece at the top that just is. I mean, until recently, the town had been paying debt on it too. It's just sitting there, not collecting taxes, not collecting anything. And we haven't been able to identify a municipal use for it. So we've tried a few different times. I feel like it is time to rezone it and see if it, we can attract some type of business there.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few slides tomorrow night that we'll walk through. Gives a little bit of the history. I think purchase price was 3.4 million. We probably paid principal and interest up, 4.5 to 4.7 all in, but it's now purchased and the obligation's been covered. Allocated CPA assets to that, so about $1.5 million allocated there over the last 15 to 20 years that could have been allocated elsewhere. So in our eyes, the town's made a significant investment, and this article actually rezone it so that we can actually understand what our opportunities are. If we were to go out to put an RFP out there, we'd actually get some, real ideas of what we can do and what things might look like. This article will not identify a specific use. It's just going to rezone it. It still can be used for a municipal purpose. So regardless of zoning, we could still drop the senior center on it, a fire station, as you hear people talk about. So it doesn't really identify or anything. It just gives the select board the opportunity to go out there and market it and see what opportunities might be out there for us.
Yeah, I think this aligns with a lot of the needs that came out of the the town plan. So I think that's a good use. And then maybe what the opposition maybe around in the past what it was originally slated to be. So I don't know if you guys have thought your responses around potential opposition around it. But
Yeah,
as far as the
yeah,
EDC concerned, me and I think it aligns with the plan.
yeah. So this will be our third time that I mean, the first time we did it was my first go around on the select board, and it was voted down because of that very idea of it was purchased for a municipal use.
Right.
We tried it again, lost by one vote, I believe. And a lot of people are a little gun shy. I believe, change takes usually isn't done in the first try anyway. So I have no problem going forward. And part of me looks to say 20 years ago, we had the article, Warren actually said commercial, affordable housing, residential housing, and municipal purposes. So, it covered the gamut. And I'm just suggesting the past 20 years we still have some needs as identified in the master plan. Anthony,
Mm-hmm.
to your point,
Yep.
we need housing, we need commercial uh, tax base.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll resonate with people, and it doesn't preclude us of you dropping a municipal building in that space as well. In fact, we talked about as part of the senior community center development is if this goes in the bottom half of that hill, wouldn't it be nice to have sort of a district that actually was a walking area that had some commercial, had some housing. So the idea is it's not one or the other, it's potentially all of it or none of it, but the idea is we can't make an informed decision unless we zone it and market it and see what people are out there willing to do.
Yep.
Okay. Do I? Do you have anything to weigh in with, Falcon? Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I'm aligned with what Tony is saying, and Michael said. I think, you know, we just need to zone it correctly in order to get, you know, the, the need right out of for the town, I guess, right? I think,
Right.
I think the
Yeah.
town's in a dire need of things. I feel like I'm just like things are closing left and right, so I feel like becoming more and more of a dead town than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely like, and I want to speak to and Anthony, you're talking about potential opposition. The opposition I've seen whenever we try this happens to be along the lines of, um, this was purchased for municipal use, but I feel like we have, I mean, we just had a massive push to use it for a very specified municipal use that failed at the ballot box.
Mm-hmm.
So I I strongly believe that the best way to go forward with this is rezoning it and diversifying what can be built there. And seeing who's interested. I mean, that's the thing. Just because something's zoned a certain way doesn't mean a certain thing's going to happen, right? It just opens up the opportunities for things to happen. So I'm in favor of this rezoning myself, and I would accept a motion for the EDC to be in favor of it as well.
Yep. Yeah.
You want to make a motion, Anthony? Is that
I'll
what the
motion. Yep. A motion.
Do we have a second?
Yep, I do. I second that motion.
All in favor, say your name and say aye.
Anthony, I.
Falcon, I.
Aye. Um,
Well, thank you. I'll probably be speaking to some of this tomorrow night. So the more committees I can
would
cite when I'm presenting, the better. So I appreciate it.
would anybody want to speak on behalf of the EDC that's going to be there? I cannot for some obvious reasons. I'll be conducting the orchestra, so to speak.
I'll be there if needed. I could probably say a couple words.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like Mike, you've got you're gonna speak to us anyway. But if you want to add anything, Anthony, please be my guest to talk on behalf of the committee. Are there any other articles that stand out that we feel the EDC wants to highlight. I mean, that was Article 25. I don't really see any others that I think the EDC would take interest in myself.
So Tom, would the field article for the school, as they presented as sort of a community type of venture to bring people together, bring people in, stimulate community events, if you will. Do you feel that, I mean, I realize it'll be based in Upton. I didn't know if this committee saw any benefit to possible traffic into Mendon for commercial restaurants, things like that. If something that like I don't know if you guys have actually looked into how do municipal or school capital projects like this potentially spur the economy. So I think Tom, you and I talked about originally maybe the senior community center, something like that goes in that could be then
Yeah,
leveraged by outside
absolutely.
entities. State could hold conferences, things like that, training sessions. Does that come into any of the discussions you guys have as part of this
Well,
committee?
I would say one specific thing we've cited that where that has happened is the fields down near Bates Street and near Cape Road.
Right.
Soccer fields, like we've talked as a committee before how you can see those in the kids in those soccer uniforms at pizza places and different things around Mendon. Now, what do you think, guys? I mean, for me, it's like a little hard to quantify that because we're not talking about fields in Mendon. We're talking about fields in Upton.
Yeah.
That's fair. But
So
when we do
I
our
mean,
fields project, Tom, we can count on you guys to consider it then. If we
yeah,
start developing Trask, right?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah.
just
Okay.
it's personally hard for me to sit here and say, oh, this can bring in a ton of economic traffic when it's in a different town, and I guess you could say like, I mean, I don't have the ability to to really have like a concentrated study to see like what the like if people leaving Upton to go back to wherever they're from will stop in Mendon for a sub or something like.
So
I don't
yeah,
feel like that.
that's fair. But one thing I would start looking for this community to do from a select board standpoint is to the level you could do research. So we've got a number of capital projects potentially coming at us, right? So if there is an economic, you know, commercial business slant to that in terms of benefit, business benefit, commercial benefit, would love to understand like the idea kicked around the idea, we need a new fire station. Part of me says, do we need a fire station or do we look at a campus-like structure over on Morrison Drive using the Shell building? And does that open up, a training facility for Blackstone Valley public safety agencies? I don't know. But if you guys could understand if those types of developments in other parts of the area, but if they exist, what does history tell us about the benefits potentially, right? So if you if that was something this committee could start to think about, it would push the select board and folks to say, well, what's coming down the pike? What is the select board's vision for around capital and development and things, anything big, so that it gives you a head start to understand you can either make the case or not make the case that there's actually an economic benefit to what we're thinking about doing from an ROI standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I guess my slight pushback on that is we've tried to do those sorts of things before, and we've run into a couple things, and that's I mean, I think the big thing is this committee doesn't have a budget, right? So when you're talking about doing research and surveys and that type of stuff, like that's something we'll have to do through other entities, um, such as CMRPC or something along those lines. But I mean, when talking about highlighting specific issues. I think that's something that's definitely within the realm of this committee, and looking into parcels and stuff like that. So I think if you have any capital projects you want us specifically to start researching, start looking into that sort of thing, I would ask that you pass them along to us, and we could take it up. I
Okay.
would just ask, and also like any ideas any members of the public might have. So, like, if you think it's something that would be within our realm, happy to put it in front of the committee.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you have a clear focus as to a charter for this committee at this point?
No,
Or
I do not. I
okay.
strongly, actually, I don't, because we've gotten conflicting. No, there's one point when we first put this committee together, it was more or less to help drive the master plan. And then the very first meeting of the committee, Bill Ambrosino said, this is actually the planning board's responsibility. And he said, so thank you, but that's not something the EDC is supposed to be taking. So then, after talking to former town administrator Kim Newman, the idea was that we were supposed to act like sort of a chamber of commerce, so to speak.
So I'm saying let's keep it within the last 12 months then. We've got new
well,
people on the
last 12 months, I'd say that, I mean, we've more or less been like a way to highlight specific parts of the master plan.
Because the master plan was important, right, for the
Right.
Right.
for the town of Mendon, right? It was showcasing, determining what the direction we wanted to go in for everything.
Mhm.
And the EDC was one of the economic development of Mendon was part of that, and it had goals that everyone sort of, okay, yes, this is what we want to try to accomplish for Mendon. And so each function should have goals to push, and the EDC has that. And so in other communities as well has certain things as well. So I don't know if that is lost, or we're back to what the status quo and we forgot, okay, we fell back to the standard way of pushing Mendon forward instead of, okay, this is what the town voted on.
Right.
This is our vision. And so let's take our vision and move forward and collectively. And
Yeah, I
only
hear you.
certain committees are moving
Yeah,
that way.
and I will say in the past we've been able to do things like when we pushed the restaurant week, which we were behind, or the open for business breakfasts, but talking to the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce, they actually lost the grant to do those open for business breakfasts, and there was some talk about possibly us doing it again, but she confirmed she still doesn't have that. This the state essentially, you know, reprioritized, and that was not something they wanted to do. So, I mean, I'd be happy to. What was
Let
that?
me say this, Tom. I think that one of the FY26 objectives for the select board I expect to be is because we talked about it for this past fiscal year when we talked a few months ago, was just revitalizing committees is what we called it. So I think this is sort of how I consider revitalizing it. Let's sit down and figure out, more specifically. So there's no confusion or ambiguity about sort of what the EDC should focus on and what you're focused on, and everybody's on the same page. I think reviewing the goals are on the master
Yeah,
plan.
that would
So
be very, very helpful.
okay,
I think it'd
and
be helpful to kind of set a direction or course for us. Because like as Anthony was saying, committees have some very specific roles. And ours has kind of always been murky or differently defined by different people.
right.
So
So I'm
it
the
might
select board liaison to this committee, so I apologize because a lot of your meetings fell on the same time and night as select board meetings.
Well, and we haven't had a regular meeting for a while, frankly, because I have been stretched thin lately, and I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I bring it up, Tom, because I think it's a great opportunity since the three of you are putting forward your time on this committee. Um, think about what you want it to be and how you think this community can benefit Mendon. And I think you guys can drive some of that vision, and we can marry it with what the select board's thinking and come to a common place, if that makes sense.
I think this could be a more wide-ranging conversation, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we want to dedicate like an entire meeting, our next meeting, to talking about it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, yeah, absolutely. And I would probably say the select board in terms of getting the revitalization right. So we focus on capital planning. So we actually have a capital planning committee now. AgCom is the other focus right now. This committee for me is would be pretty high in terms of focus for the board, because I think there's
Yeah, and what I would ask the board is, in terms of that, like, what clearly differentiates us from, say, the master plan implementation committee or the or the capital planning committee, like.
well, yeah, I mean, I'm the capital planning committee liaison, so I think there's a clear difference, and we'll delineate that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure there is a master plan implementation committee, to be quite honest.
or perhaps it could be us.
Well,
No.
I actually don't believe that there should be, because I think, to Anthony's point, when you read the master plan goals and objectives, those are probably goals and objectives of individual committees too. It's just now synthesized, right? So if we have too many committees, especially around execution, we'll get nothing done. You know what I mean? But I do think implementing those things in the master plan, Anthony, to your point, I know it's definitely on the chair's radar. She's continually bringing it up. I think collectively we are. I might be more of a let's target specific pieces,
Yeah.
and
Because you only could do what you can do. You only got so many.
yeah, and I think if we bite off too much, then we're going to be like analysis paralysis, where I'm sort of like, there's a lot of things, low hanging fruit we can execute.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation we're going to be having. But I think I want to make you guys aware that I think revitalization, and I feel for you because I don't feel, and I knew the history a little bit, Tom, with Kim and how things changed. I just feel like clearer direction and
I
expectations
agree.
from the select
Let me
board to this
ask, do you
committee
think you
would be
do you
beneficial.
think do you think you'd be talking about that within the next month?
I would say we should have direction for us. I think we need to get past the election, Tom, and reorganize the select board. But I brought this up in our last meeting. I want our goal planning session to be, say, in June, not December, right? For FY26. So we're pulling that up. And this is absolutely going to be one of them in my mind. And if nothing else, I will make a point of running with this committee as I did with the capital planning to get it moving. We were a
Yeah, and
working group for
what
capital for
I'd
2
like
years.
what I'd like to do is kind of have that direction before our next meeting, because I know multiple people that have joined the EDC, and then after a while of just like you know having conflicting directions or
Right. So
you know
let me ask this.
yeah.
This committee, and I'm happy to sit in, I will sit in on these meetings when I'm available, can have the discussion amongst yourselves of where you think the EDC can provide the most benefit. So what do you want it to be?
Okay.
Even if the select board is not ready with clear direction, that would be great input for the select board to hear what you have to say and how you think it can be a benefit to help. We would probably create a formal charter, because that's what we're doing now when we form committees.
That's beautiful,
So
actually.
you guys can, you're the engine. We just
Okay.
talk a lot, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
I think you should have quite you've been doing it. You should have a say in it. And I would think that the select board should take the people doing the work, their input, to heart as we think about, this revitalization.
Sure. How does June 5th sound for everybody at 7 p.m. to have this more wide-ranging discussion?
June 5th.
That's the first Thursday in June.
I think I'm out of the country.
That
All
might be a
right.
problem.
Yeah. When will
Yeah,
you
I
be
am.
back, Anthony?
The next week I'll be back.
Okay.
The week
Want to do
after.
the second Thursday?
Yeah, that works.
How about for you, Falcon? Thursday, the 12th of June.
Yeah, that will work for me too.
Okay. Let's plan that at 7 p.m. for our next meeting when we'll have this more wide ranging discussion. And then we can take those and bring them. We can take that and bring it to the select board, like whatever the parameters of that discussion are.
Yeah. And let's look at what the town wants to and see if there's any actions that may need to be captured or
Yeah.
potentially captured.
Well, I would say that you guys want to take that into account. I think it's more the way I see this. I see this more as like coming up with a sort of
New charter.
yeah, well, like what our role should be and what that should look like, because that's been the piece that I see has been ill-defined.
I think one of the challenges is nobody's quite sure what an EDC is supposed to do. So if you were to have a conversation with a member of the select board, say myself as an example, I'm pretty sure I would ask the question, what are other towns doing?
Mm.
And who's your opposite in Upton? Like, what do they call an EDC? So that type of information, because we don't know what we don't know. And I think a lot of times we look to understand, well, let's not remake the wheel type of thing. And then if it doesn't fit with Mendon, it doesn't fit. But to understand sort of, practices is a great way to drive a discussion.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, why don't we keep that in mind and have our conversation in June. And until then, we can adjourn. How about that? And then, Anthony, if you're around tomorrow, if you want to speak to the EDC's approval of Article 25.
Hope it won't need to be needed. It pass flying colors.
Yeah, unless somebody's like, what do you mean the EDC approved it? I want to hear from the EDC. I would
Yeah.
expect you to jump up, but
Yep.
hopefully you won't need to.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Yes, we have a second.
All in favor?
Anthony, I.
Hi. Falcon, aye.
All right. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll
Thank
see you
you.
on June 12th.
Thank you.
Thanks,
at
Mike.
Tomorrow
7
night.
p.m.
All right.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you.